What's up, guys? Hey, welcome to another episode of Hillside. Look, that's 2 weeks in a row I've not had to ask my producer to make sure what the name of the show was. I'm doing good. I'm on a roll. He's over there taking props, but it was all me. It's all me. I'm the host. It's all about me on this show. This is my show. I get all the credit. No, just kidding. As lightning hits me, right? As lightning strikes me. So how's everybody doing? Once again, it's the end of the week. It's Friday. It's a beautiful Friday. It's actually quite nice out there today. Yeah, I had a nice, easy, like an Eagles song. You know, I took it easy this week. I didn't go to Winslow, Arizona, though, and I didn't see a flatbed Ford, but I did listen to a lot of Tiny Tim. I have proof. Did we not listen to Tiny Tim? And what are the songs do we listen to? Oh, Baby Shark.
Spirit in the Sky.
Spirit in the Sky. That song actually came out the year I was born, so I really like that song a lot because, you know, a lot of people say it's not a Christian song. Even the guy who wrote it said it's not a Christian song, but it's still, anytime you can reference Jesus in a song and you can reference peace and love and attach that to Jesus, it's awesome. Uh-oh, did you hear that? Do we need to evacuate the building?
Not yet.
Okay, good.
So.
All right, good. All right, so anyway, hey, you know what? Today I was thinking about what can I talk about on the show today? Because, you know, I like to be well prepared when I do my show. I like to make sure I have bullet points and material. So I was thinking today, what can I talk about today? And I want to talk about something that's kind of weird, but I want to tie it into what the message is. I was thinking about one of my favorite movies of all time. Well, actually, I like all of them, and it's the Rocky movies. I like all of them, except for Rocky V, when he lost all his money and he had to go fight Tommy Gunn. That was not really dumb. But the Rocky Balboa and then the Creeds after that, fantastic. But I liked how Rocky 1 ended because it's a perfect picture of sometimes when we go through struggles in life that sometimes we're not going to win the first time. And Rocky gave everything he had. And he still didn't get the decision. He still didn't win. But you know what? It was really cool because at the beginning of Rocky 2, you know, it shows them both in the hospital because they're obviously mangled from beating on each other for 15 rounds. But he opens Apollo's door and he says, "Hey, Apollo, can I ask you a question?" And Apollo's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And Rocky said, "Did you give me the best? Did you give me everything that you had?" And Apollo said, "Yes, I did." So I think in that moment, I think even though Rocky knew he had lost the first time, I think he knew that he endured everything that Apollo had given him, that he stood toe-to-toe with this guy. And sometimes, you know, when we struggle with stuff and we don't win the first time, it's like, boy, I don't know if I can go through that again because then it's going to be tougher the next time. So fast forward a little bit into Rocky 2, you know, he's basically retired from fighting. He's got some eye issues, obviously, from the first fight. But he still has that desire to win. He still has that desire to defeat Apollo, to defeat that thing which people say that he couldn't defeat. You know, how many times do we encounter people who are so defeated and so, you know, just the wind is so let out of their sails because people have said, you're not going to be able to overcome that anyway. You're not going to be able to get over that. You're not going to be able to break that addiction. You're not going to be able to break that struggle that you're going with because, you know, it's just the more you try, the harder it pulls at you. And yes, it does. But that's why I like Rocky 2 so much because even his wife was scared for him to go fight. And was like, "I don't want you to fight. I don't want you to fight. I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you to lose your eye." But Rocky still just had this desire to win and to defeat that thing which defeated him the first go around. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie is she got pregnant and they had their child, but she had some complications with that. So she was in a coma for a few days. And what did Rocky do? Rocky stayed by her side and prayed daily. went to the chapel, prayed with her, read to her, talked to her, you know, helped her through that struggle. And then you see her finger move as she's tired, sleep on the bed next to her arm. You see her finger move. I'm getting goosebumps already because every time I watch it with my wife, I have to rewind it and play it like 4 or 5 times because it's just immensely powerful because it's just such a great picture of what I want to talk about today. So her finger starts to move and rub his finger, and so Rocky looks up to see his wife staring at him and smiling, and and of course Burgess Meredith, Mickey, is standing in the corner with who's Rocky's manager, and she says, "Come here, I want to ask you a favor. Come here, I want to ask you something." And he leans over and she goes, "Do me a favor." And he goes, "What?" And she goes, "Win." And then all of a sudden you hear the bell of the boxing ring go ding. And it was like in that moment, Rocky's whole face expression just totally changed, like, you know what? I can defeat this now. I can do this. I can go out and win. And of course, all of us know that he went out and beat Apollo and Rocky 2, and just went on to great things. But it was just that mindset that somebody said, you can win. You can do this. You can just go forward. You know, this thing does not have to have control over you. And so it was just a powerful, I think my thing is upside down. Just a powerful moment for me because it's just like whenever I struggle with stuff, and I know whenever we struggle with stuff and we get defeated and we don't get the victory the first time, it's like we're almost just programmed to quit, to just give up and just say, you know what, I tried. I'm not strong enough. I'm not powerful enough. It's just got too much of a hold over me. It's just that Goliath is just too tall. I can't conquer it. And then we just sit in an atmosphere of defeat. And then, you know, as things come along, we just allow that stuff to just pile on top of us and pile on top of us and pile on top of us. But, you know, I'm here to tell you, God is shouting down from the throne going, win. I want you to win. I've rung the bell. The battle is on. You can win. You can defeat this. You can do this. You don't have to live a life of struggle and doubt and fear. You know, you can do this. And it's just crazy because I see a lot of people in my daily walk. Like, I'll give you an example. I met a guy a couple days ago named Will, and he was telling me how he's from a small town, and you know, Will has some struggles, and he talked about how all through high school that people, they wouldn't talk to him hardly, they wouldn't hang out with him because they thought he was different. They just thought he was non-hangable, you know, they just felt like he wasn't worthy enough to be a friend, to hang out. So I just try to encourage him and say, you know, you shouldn't let what people say about you identify you. You know, you've got to claim your own identity, and you've got to hold fast to that, because the storms will come, the winds will blow, and the names will come, and when do we get to decide what identity that we get to place on other people? I mean, we don't get to do that. I mean, it's just, and you could just see like his facial expression just changed. It's like, you know what, you're right. I shouldn't let people define who I am. Don't ever let anybody claim your identity for you. You claim your own identity and hold fast to it. Even when the insults come, even when the judgmental looks come, even when life sucks. And you start to get that thought in your head, well, maybe they're right. They're not right. If somebody is speaking negative thoughts into your life and speaking negativity in their life, they are never right about what they're saying about you, ever. Never. Ever. And it just drives me crazy when I hear, well, that's what so-and-so says. That's what so-and-so said about me. That's what so-and-so... Is that what you think? Do you think that? And a lot of times, unfortunately, especially with the younger generation, they're like, yeah, why not? What else is there to think, you know? You know, we need to start speaking positive things. Like when I was talking about Rocky, you know, when his wife was, you know, using her fear to try to kind of hinder him a little bit, and hopefully to quash that fire inside of him, that desire to go out and try it again, to try to win again. You know, it's just like Rocky just felt like a lost soul. You know, he just didn't have a place anymore. He just didn't really know where to fit in anymore, because his identity was, he even said that in the movie, he says, I'm a fighter. That's what I do. I'm a fighter. That's who I am. And I'm telling you, when Adrian woke up and told him to win, you know, it was like that whole situation changed, because it was like one spark of positive totally burned out all the negative that had been laid out before. And we need to start doing that with these guys that are struggling with negativity and stuff. You know, it just breaks my heart when I hear people, you know, talking about people and talking about, oh, this and that. I'm like, can you tell me what their name is? Well, obviously not. So if you don't know who their name is, then yes, I'm going to get a little fiery here. If you don't know who their name is, how do you know who they are? You know? I mean, because who we are just isn't about this. You know, people watching now, people watching on Facebook would be able to identify me as a Cubs fan. I am a Cubs fan, but that's not who I am. That's just a part of who I am. You know, and people going through struggles in their life, that's not who they are. That's just a part of what they're going through. That's just a moment that they were going through. It's like we judge the whole book by reading the opening sentence, and have decided just by then, you know, what the end of the book is going to be about, and how they got to the end of the book. And it's not that way. And a lot of times people are struggling with stuff because we keep dumping stuff on them. We just keep putting stuff on them. And then when we put stuff on them, then we get mad because they act that very way that we keep dumping stuff on them. It's like it's a mess. It's like gaslighting. I've heard that's a new thing now, I guess. Gaslighting is when you just try to make people miserable, and then but not really act like you're making them miserable. Now, what kind of nonsense is that? I mean, how much energy do you have to spend to try to act like you're not making somebody miserable while making them miserable? I mean, it's just silliness to me. I'm too lazy for all that. I like to hang out, love. It's easier. I like to just have fun. What's up, Jody? My buddy Jody's a big Cubs fan. No, he's not. Just kidding. Go Cardinals. Oh, did I just say that? I need a drink of water. My producer Ethan is a huge Cubs fan. Yeah, knows all the players, loves them. He even knew Spirit in the Sky. I'm excited about that, man. Not too many people remember that song. I know my buddy Bill and my buddy Jody out there know that song. I love it. So anyway, so yes, you know, when we start dumping negativity on people and we start pounding that sand on them and getting them stuck to where they can't move, and then we say, we wonder how they got there. Really? Seriously? Now, a lot of times, a lot of this stuff that they're in is self-provoked. I get that. And it's but sometimes, can we really stop and think, you know, even before that moment, if we could rewind their life, that was a good rewinding sound, right? Rewind their life to when that moment in their life that began them on that journey. You know, we don't know. You know, how do we know people's stories? Do we get to really try to hear people's stories, or do we make up stories for them? You know, do we decide what what role they're going to play in our story. You know, I would much rather play with a cast of, you know, I don't even know what the word I'm trying to look for, but people who enjoy theater. You know what it would be like if it was like, you know, I like theater, but I brought a bunch of people in who didn't like theater. You know, how conducive would that be? I mean, what kind of things would they be? You know, what kind of play would that be? You know, you'd have one guy excited about it, and then you would have 12 guys who are not excited about it. And then we just sometimes just way too much into it. You know, I got to talk to a lady at Starbucks last night, just random conversation. I went to get a coffee last night and pulled up and I was like, man, I'm sure I'm glad to be going home. You know, it's conversation. She's like, yeah, when I go home, I got to go write a 5-page paper. And we spent like a 5-minute conversation just talking about what she was writing about. We got to talk about Martin Luther King, which, if anybody knows me and has watched the show long enough, I can sit and talk with anybody about Martin Luther King forever. That guy spoke nothing. I mean, if you want to talk about what a life looked like by speaking nothing but positive, look at his life. You know, I mean, he didn't get to see the fruition of his dream, but he definitely laid a great foundation for it. I mean, he was really born for such a time as this. I mean, there was a time when there was a riot down in the South. I can't remember exactly what city it is. And this was totally a Jesus moment, because this is parallel. Go back thousands of years ago when the Israelites are like, when do we get to raise up our swords against the Romans? When are you going to form your army and defeat the Romans? Because they thought Jesus had come to defeat the Romans, as to set the Israelites free again. And that's not what he was there for. He was not there to set people physically free. He was there to set them spiritually free. So now fast forward thousands of years later to the mid-60s, and you know, something had happened and they started rioting, and Martin Luther King came down and did something that was probably unheard of back then. He said, "Why are you guys rioting?" And they said, "Don't we have a right?" And he said, "Absolutely. You have a right to be angry. This sucks. But is that really how things are going to change?" You know, they thought Martin Luther King was going to come down there and say, "You know what? This is the last straw. You're right. Let's burn the place down. Let's act like they do. Let's be like them. And then if we make it even, then it'll all get better." But he knew in that moment that to stand strong and to stand upright in the face of adversity, in the face of hatred, in the face of judgmentalism, in the face of even death, you know, they would be victorious. And he spoke that, and it was like they heard that and they grasped onto that, and it just seemed like, I don't know, it just seemed to soothe the soul of the city and the soul of the South. And you know, he just knew that, but speaking positive into a situation was the only way that the situation was going to get better. If you know, it's like if someone's calling you a name and you call them a name back, does that really solve the situation? I mean, you might feel good inside for a minute, but don't sometimes, I mean, if we really truly think about it and are honest with each other, don't we sometimes feel like, man, I wish I hadn't said that? You know, is there ever regret in that moment? But if somebody's calling you names and somebody's just being ugly to you, and you can just stand there and just you know, stand firm and just still try to love them and care for them, you know, don't you think at the end of that conversation, would you feel better about that? Or would you feel better if you zinged them back as they zinged you? I mean, I struggle with that sometimes. I really do. I have moments when it's just like, okay, I don't like stress, but then I get stressed out, and then I stress myself out even more. And it's like a vicious revolving circle. You know, but when I can stand firm and I can just look at somebody and say, hey, you know what, I understand you're having a bad day, you know, but I love you, man. I know whatever. And if you really think about it, if you don't believe what they're saying about you, then it really shouldn't affect you in the way that it does. I mean, we just too often, we don't know who we are inside. We've lost our identity. And so when people say something about us, we automatically cling on to that. It's like we're grabbing all these vines on the tree, but we're not getting anywhere. All we're doing is getting entangled in this web of lies that people speak about us, and it's just tough. And God came to just say, you know what? I got one word for you. This is your identity, who I think you are, loved. That's our identity to him, loved. But God, I did this, but God, I did that. I said this, I said that. I messed up, I did this. God, you know what his response is? Loved. Because that's what he sees when he sees us. That's why he created us. That's why he wants fellowship with us, is because he loves us. And he doesn't sit there and go, you're right, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have said that. The only word that ever comes out of him is love. My beloved. How many times does God say that in the Bible? My beloved. He said that about Jesus when he got baptized. He said, this is my beloved in whom I'm well pleased. You know, and he says that about us. He calls us priests and priestesses. You know, he calls us, you know, children of God. I mean, that's crazy. I love it. I love it. You know, when people try to get mean and nasty to me, you know what I do? I say, guys, is that what you think? And you know what he goes? Nope. And it just kind of, yes, does it get to me sometimes? Does it fire me up? Like today, I had a guy mad at me because I was running a few minutes late, just would not let go. I mean, he just was mad as a hornet and just all this and that, and just really upset because I was late because of things that were out of my control. So I just simply tried to explain to him why I was late. And that was it. I left it at that. Kept going on, wouldn't sit down. You know what? After 15 minutes of being on my bus, you know what he did? He came over and said, thanks for the ride. Have a nice day. You know why? Because in that moment, I chose to show him love and patience, because who knows what kind of day he was having, you know. For me, in my mind, he could not have gotten on the bus that quick and found something that quick to be mad at me about. So what he was struggling with manifested in the fact that I was running late. You know, and just by showing him grace, by showing him love, and just not reacting to the situation, you know, just made the situation better in my eyes, I think. You know, I mean, he came out the bus and he just said, you know, have a nice day, thanks. And I was like, you too, have a nice day. And we went on, you know. I could have, you know, reacted very differently. And, you know, but then that would have been a different outcome. That would have been a different situation. And there would have been no opportunity for grace, and there would have been no opportunity to show God's identity in me to somebody else, you know. When somebody's struggling with stuff, just look at them and say, loved. You know, just think to yourself, loved. When they're going through stuff, tell them loved. But you don't know what I did, loved. But you don't know, you know, the struggles I've gone through, loved. You don't know the abuse that I've given, loved. Because that's what he says about us. You know, if we could just speak that into people's lives and say, man, you know what, brother or sister, I love you no matter what. Life sucks, and life can get frustrating, and life can get hard, and sometimes I want to just go home and shut the entire world out. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to even talk to the fish. The fish go hide in their little cave because they know Dad is having a bad day, you know. But I just try to take time and remember, what does God say about them, you know? But God, they hurt my feelings. God, they said stuff that hurt my feelings. God, they said stuff that hurt somebody else's feelings. Loved. That's all he keeps telling me is loved. And when we can get into that mindset of, you know, loving people no matter what, it's just amazing. It's like you enjoy, because it says in James 1, it says, count it a blessing when trials and tribulations come, because it enhances your faith. And I think in Chuck's version, I think it also should have said it enhances your faith, but it also helps to strengthen your identity in God. Because when you're going through stuff, and like I said, but you just don't know what they've done to me. First of all, God knows everything. He knows what's happened. He knows the situation. But he just keeps whispering that sweet word to me every time I get frustrated, and every time things go wrong. It's loved. But God, I've messed up again. Loved. God, I'm going to mess up again tomorrow. Loved. God, I'm going to mess up next week. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go a whole week without messing up. Loved. That's all he says. That's what our identity in Christ is, loved. Because John 3:16 says, for he loved us so much that he gave his only son, because he loved us, you know. He gave his son. Can you imagine that conversation? I'd love to have heard that conversation in heaven. And God say, hey, Jesus, come here. Come. You see my people down there? The ones that I love and that I call loved? Well, they've lost their identity. They've lost their identity in who I made them to be. And they're struggling with sin and hatred and anger and division and strife and all this stuff, and they just can't get out. God didn't say, you know what? Tough. I'm going to let them wallow in it for a while. You know, maybe they'll figure their own way out. God didn't say that. God said, I love them too much to leave them where they are, Jesus. And Jesus says, when do I go? When do I go? And the rest is history. You know, Jesus came here. He walked a life. He walked a life that, that showed that love can truly conquer. I love all those love wins. I love those signs, because love does win. You know, love wins in all situations. When we can get into a situation that can be tough, or that can be hurtful, or that can even be ugly, and we can come into it with a motive of love, true love, compassionate love, there will be victory in that situation. I guarantee it. I've experienced it in my own life. I've experienced it watching it in other people's life. I've experienced it watching it in my wife's life, in my family's life, in just my friends' life, in my friends at church, and it's a powerful moment when we realize, hey, you know, this love wins thing really does work. Because when we start to speak positive into people's life and we start to lift them up, it erodes all that junk that's weighing their heart down, and people can just start to rebuild and just rebuild their lives and rebuild dreams and rebuild hope and rebuild love, and just not be stuck in this. You know, I love to crack jokes. I love to make people smile. Because even for that moment, when they're smiling at my joke, they're not thinking about the stuff that's going on in their own life. And that's why I love it. I just love being able to have opportunities to just bless people and just to love people. And it's amazing. So I'm going to leave it at that. I hope I've been able to inspire you guys to, you know, just to try to. Our first and foremost motive in any situation should be the word that God calls us, love. You know, because if he's calling us love and we don't love others, something's broken. The bridge is broken. We need to repair the bridge, because the love that he calls us should be the love that we call each other. And so with that, I'm going to close. I hope you guys have had a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of the week. And like I said, I always try to say this on my radio show, but I'm going to try to start saying it here. Next week, go out and make a stranger a friend, but more importantly, don't make a friend a stranger. If there's somebody you need to reach out to and show some love, show some love. We love you here at Hillside. Have a great day, guys.